Hey, what's up, YouTube? My name is Christian, and I'm a teacher with Space Yoga Studio in Augusta, Georgia. And this is our Wednesday edition of online yoga. So if you're watching this live or if you're watching it back, just thanks for being here. Thanks for giving yourself this opportunity to practice. You deserve it. I am going to back up and just kind of check to make sure that you can see me. And we will get started here in right around 2 minutes. Hey, gang. All right, let's see here. Let's see how that does. That's better. Okay. There we go. That's the ticket. All right. So, like I mentioned, my name is Christian. I am a teacher with Space Yoga Studio. I teach the beginner classes on Tuesdays. We will be reopening as of, speaking of Tuesdays, May 26th, Tuesday, May 26th. You'll need to go online either to Facebook or Instagram, or go look up Space Yoga Studio Augusta, Georgia on Google, and all of the instructions regarding opening. Any questions you might have will be answered there. You can also reach out directly to Monica Acosta, either via this video, and just put your questions down in the comments. She's very responsive. She'll get those addressed. We're very excited. So this will be my last live stream, and it's been a pleasure being able to participate in this series with you all, and just for allowing me to come into your space, your living room, wherever you're doing this from. It's just about that time. We got about 1 minute. So we're going to get started. Just for expectation purposes, this will last right around 45 minutes. It is an all levels type of practice. So we're going to make sure that it's accessible for everyone who may be watching or practicing. And that's it. If you feel compelled to give in turn, because you know the studio, or maybe you don't know, studio operates by donation. So if you want to log on to spaceyogastudio.com and go to the link for donating to Project Create Space, that's the nonprofit arm that carries yoga to underserved populations, so they can have access to this wonderful practice in times when it is so desperately needed. All right, I'm going to back up and get on my mat. I invite you to do the same, and we'll get going. Okay. All right. We are going to start kneeling. We're going to start kneeling today. Hold on. There we go. Need to check out, make sure all my stuff is turned off. My apologies. I thought I had done that. Okay. So we are going to start kneeling. Just go ahead and get a little bit of blood flowing through some of these bigger muscle groups as we get warmed up. A couple of big breaths in through the nose, filling up that entire body cavity. So we want to try and breathe beyond this upper respiratory region down into our abdomen. That's what we're going for when we say big breath in, right? It's like, imagine yourself like a balloon. You know, when you were a kid and you used to blow up balloons, you want to try and fill up every space in this upper body region. So let's do it real quick. Big breath in. You feel that go beyond and pushing down into that abdomen, holding it at the top until that body kind of begs for it to be released. And, just like a balloon, makes that funny sound though, like that. You let all of that air out. So in one avenue, out in another. Let's do a couple more of those. Big breath in. Exhaling it out. One more time. Big breath in. Exhaling it out. All right. Hopefully that has kind of gotten your systems regulated wherever you were when you started. I'm sitting back on my heels. If you followed my lead on that, and that is starting to make you feel some kind of way, you can always rise up, kind of give those quads, those hamstrings, those ankles a little bit of a break. I also forgot to take off my socks. I am not really with it today. I think it has something to do with the weather. All right. If you can sit back, the longer you can do so, the better. What we're really doing is creating some space in those ankle joints, right? We don't pay a lot of attention to our ankles. It's something I learned in my yoga practice as doing regular kind of self-examination, identifying areas of my body that need more attention than others, and then addressing them, versus that mentality of like, oh, I'll deal with that later, or oh, that'll work itself out. Intentionally assigning the value to something that my body keeps expressing to me in a way that is meaningful and respecting it in that sense. Like I said, if you need to come up at any point, you can just come to this high kneeling position, right, and still accomplish everything that we're about to do. We're just going through the process of warming, like I mentioned, some of these bigger muscle groups up so that as we go into the posture sequences, everything's ready to go with us. So we're just going to take that right ear to that right shoulder really quick. We're going to loosen some of this tension that a lot of us carry in this upper shoulder and neck region. Rolling that head forward, chin to chest. Taking that left ear to that left shoulder now. And finally tilting that head back. Feel free to kind of go back through each of those stations. You can pause in between as you make another revolution with your head. You can go back in the other direction if you like. All right, then meeting me back up at that neutral spine position. We're going to take that right palm and face it towards the opposite wall from us. Take that left hand to those right fingers and just flex back. Just creating some space now in the wrists and in this muscle region underneath the arm. Go ahead and flip that hand over. Gentle pressure on the top of the hand now. Well, let's just switch arms really quickly. Flipping that hand over also. Gentle pressure here. When I talk about gentle pressure, or your body, I can't give you any kind of assignment as to what this is supposed to feel like. Just just kind of study yourself and know that yoga should never be painful. Um, we do want to find our working edge today, though, and hopefully you do. I invite you to. Let's roll those wrists out. Same thing with our neck. You can switch directions with them. All right. Coming up to that high kneeling position now. We're going to take another couple big breaths in through the nose. As we do, those arms rise up overhead. Taking our gaze with the hands. Floating those arms back down as we exhale. Once again, big breath in. Arms go up and over. Gaze is with the ceiling. Just creating some length here in the side bodies. Exhaling those arms back down. One more time. Big breath in. And then exhaling those arms back down once more. All right. As easily as you can, just rotating on your mat so that we can come to our all fours position. So the tops of our feet are bound to the mat. Those hands will plant out in front of us. Shoulder distance apart, right? So the arms are stacked. The shoulders are above the elbow and above the wrist. On either side, hands are spread out nice and wide. Knees are hips distance apart. Okay. Gaze is down in between our hands. That way we keep that neutral spine position. So in line with our necks, we're not, looking forward like that. And we're just going to rock back towards those heels again, pushing away from our palms. Coming back forward, extending over those wrists a little bit. Then back towards those heels again. Back forward, extending the shoulders in front of the wrists now. Then one more time, rocking back. And coming back, shoulders in front of those wrists again. Then back to the neutral spine. So we're going to go through several of our cat-cows here. If you've never done those before, you've probably heard about them. They're, one of the more famous yoga postures. So just to give you a little bit of guidance, we're going to move with our breath. So as we breathe in, all right, we're going to pull our navel in, up into our spine. We'll roll our hips back. Weather outside, messed up. Pushing our navel down towards the mat for our cow posture. So breathing in, pushing our navel down, chin goes back. And then as we exhale, we pull that navel now into our spine, chin to chest, pushing up and away out of the hands. Breathing in for our cow posture. Exhaling for a cat. Do about one or two of those more apiece. Breathing in and then back out. Cow, and then cat. All right, meeting me back at that flat tabletop back, that neutral spine position. Gaze is in between your hands. We're going to take our right leg, step back to the toe points. All right, so the ball of the foot of that right foot is now engaged on the ground. And we're pushing back through that heel on that leg, right? It's like being in plank, but with a kickstand, okay? So ball of the foot is engaged, pushing back through that heel. When you're ready, you can pick that foot up, keeping that foot flex so the toes stay down. And then reaching that opposite arm, that left arm out long and in front of us for our spinal balance posture. Bringing that hand back down first, and the toe points, and the knee. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Going back to the toe points on that left foot now. Pushing back through that heel. When you're ready, lifting that leg up to parallel with the spine. Foot's flexed, toes are down. And then reaching that opposite arm, that right arm out long and in front. Bringing that hand back down first. Then the toes, and the knee. All right, we're going to do one more sequence and continue to kind of ramp it up. And then we'll have a little break right after that. We'll go into a child's pose in just a moment. So this time, without extending the legs back, we're going to curl both sets of toes. And on the next big breath in, we're going to hover our knees and our shins over the mat at about 6 inches. All right, so here we go. Big breath in. And just lift those knees, engage them off the mat. Shins are now parallel with the ground. Gaze is still in between our hands. This is our bear pose. This is our first real element of balance and power. We're pushing back through both sets of heels now. Float those knees back down gently. Be here in the break for just one breath. And then back up. Big breath in. Natural tendency will be to kind of like float back. I want you to keep those shoulders stacked over the top of those wrists. Engage your core here. Remember to breathe. Float those knees back down gently. We're going to do that one more time. And this is where we start to find that working edge. Big breath in. Float those knees up. And then just do that quick body scan. Am I pushing to my heels? My core engaged? Am I breathing? One more breath here. Float those knees down gently. Uncurl those toes. Put them together. Send those knees out wide. And then just walk those hands forward and release that chest down towards the mat for our first child's pose of the practice. When you're ready, bringing those hands back to plant beneath you so they can support your weight. Walking those knees back underneath you. We're back in that tabletop position now. We're going to curl both sets of toes again. All right. We're not doing bear again. No worries there. We're going to send our hips up towards the ceiling for our first down dog of the practice. And begin to pedal out those legs. You can alternate dropping those heels towards the ground one at a time, creating some length in the backs of the legs. When you're ready, just floating those knees back down gently. Uncurl those toes, walk those hands back to meet those knees, and get into that high kneeling position where we started out the practice in. So we're going to do a couple of low lunge movements to continue to get all that blood flowing in our lower body. There's elements of power and balance in this too. But just choose a leg. I'm going to start with my left leg and just step it out in front of me. I'm going to sink that front knee forward. And it's kind of hard to see, but I'm just bringing those hips and bringing them fully engaged. All right. Take a big breath in. Bring those arms up overhead. Releasing back down, hands to hips. So from here, I'm going to stay in this forward lunge position, right, as I'm pushing those hips forward. But I'm also going to bend at the hips now and bring both sets of hands inside this lead foot. Now you can go to your fists here, or you can go palms down on the mat. It's whatever you feel most comfortable with. I'm going to turn real quick just so you can get a visual on what I'm talking about. So you can go palms here or fists, but making sure to keep this knee pinned up against this upper arm, this tricep. We don't want that leg rolling out and doing one of these numbers where your foot rolls. It's no go on that one. All right, so I'm in that forward lunge position. Got both sets of hands inside that lead foot. Knee is pinned up against that arm. Now you can stay here, and this is good. This is going to be where you're at today. If you want a little bit more, you can curl the toes on that back foot and engage that knee up off the ground. Once again, just do that body scan. Am I doing all the things Christian just talked about? Am I pushing back through that heel? My core engaged? Is my knee up against my arm? And then once you've done that, how do I feel? Like, what feels good about this? Am I uncomfortable anywhere? Can I make any adjustments? It's your body, it's your practice, so I just have really enjoyed becoming a student of myself. It's been a really interesting journey the last couple of years. All right, so one more breath here. And to come out of this, we're going to float this knee down just gently so you don't injure yourself. Uncurl those toes. Pin the top of that foot to the ground again. Stand back up and slide this knee back into space. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side because yoga and life are about balance. All right, so stepping that opposite leg out. You'll see when I begin, that knee is kind of set back from the foot. So when I lunge forward, that knee ends up stacking over the ankle. All right, so from here, big breath in. Arms come up and overhead. Gaze goes back to the ceiling again. Give this slight swoop in our back once more. Releasing those arms back down. Once more, we're going to hinge at the hips, hinging forward. Staying in this forward lunge position. Hands go inside of the foot. Knee is attached to that arm. You can stay here. right? And you are most likely feeling that all through this, posterior chain complex. But you can engage the toes on that back leg and get that knee up off the ground. It's your choice. This is what we call our lizard pose. It's one of my favorite yoga postures. It's really simple, very accessible. Just, I thought when I got into this, like all the inversions and the balance, like that was going to be, what I was going after. But my ability to get into this pose and gain maximum benefit from it is, become one of my favorite things. So I'm bringing this knee down gently so we don't hurt ourselves. Uncurling those toes, standing back up to kneeling, and then just sliding this leg back into space. Once again, walking those knees forward, or walking those hands forward. Curl both sets of toes. We're going to go back up to down dog. And then we'll walk those feet up to meet those hands. Hang here and forward fold for just a moment. So hands to the mat. You can get them up under those toes like that. Head heavy here. It's just kind of our ragdoll state. A little twist to the right or the left. Just clearing out some space here. All the different areas. Coming up to halfway lift. For me, that's kind of a hands to knees scenario. I'm imagining, and I can see it on the camera. Nice tabletop back position. I got my gaze down here towards the edge of my mat. So I have that neutral spine where my neck's in line. And then finally rising all the way up, arms coming up and overhead. Big stretch, fingertips all the way down to the soles of our feet. And then floating those arms down. All right, now we are standing. Spent a lot of time down there on the ground for the first third of the practice. Had some balance and power, and we're gonna do a couple things up top now. They'll be equivalent of balance and power. Really quickly, this is our mountain pose. So this operates in a similar capacity to our child's pose. If at any time you feel you've overexerted yourself, whether you're doing this at home because of YouTube or Instagram, or if you go into a studio like Space Yoga, and you feel like you've gone beyond that working edge and everybody else in class is standing, you can come into mountain pose, check back in with yourself, catch your breath, realign with your intentions for being there that day, and once you've kind of regained your composure, you can fold back into the class. Feet hips distance apart. All right, it's just like we're standing in queue. I also like to point this out, especially in times like these when there's a lot of anxiety and tension, kind of floating through the world. If you do find yourself in a situation where you're in a line, or you can think about what you're doing as a mountain pose, as part of your yoga practice. You can do a mudra with your hands, bringing all those finger points together and just kind of feeling that. One second, I lost my screen real quick. There we go. Apologies. But, you can alternate picking your toes up and dropping them back down. It'll just help with some stress reduction, some anxiety reduction. So, all right, we're going to move on. We're going to go through several sun salutations. I'm just